What if the true measure of a leader wasn't their pristine record, but the depth of their scars and the grace they were shown? In a stunningly raw Senate hearing, the confirmation of a Secretary of Defense nominee veered from policy to a deeply personal trial. One senator, abandoning decorum, launched a blistering attack on his colleagues, accusing them of gross hypocrisy while exposing his own troubled past. He argued that a nominee's personal mistakes and the forgiveness they received were not disqualifications, but profound qualification. This wasn't just a political debate. It was a collision of personal conduct, public duty, and the very definition of character. But was it a moment of profound truth or a masterful deflection from legitimate scrutiny?
I'd like to submit for the record signatures by 32 members of the House of Representatives who are veterans. The signatures call on the Senate to honor the constitutional duty of advise and consent by conducting a fair, thorough confirmation process that evaluates his nomination solely on the substance and merits, his distinguished military service, academic credentials, and a bold vision for revitalizing the national defense. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record.
Without objection.
There's a lot of talk going about talking about qualifications and then about us hiring him if we are the board. But there's a lot of senators here I wouldn't have on my board because there is no qualifications except your age, and you got to be living in the state and you're a citizen of the United States to be a senator. Other than the fact we got to convince a lot of people to vote for us. And then when we start talking about qualifications for if you're qualified for it, could the chairman tell me what the qualifications are for the Secretary of Defense? Mr. Chairman, could you tell me what the qualifications are for the Secretary of Defense?
I'd be happy
I'll read it.
For you to do that.
Yeah. Let me read it for you because I Googled
I was getting some advice from my second in command.
Yeah, but I'm just making a point because there's a lot about qualifications, and I think it's so hypocritical of senators, especially on the other side of the aisle, be talking about his qualifications, not being able to lead the secretary or be the Secretary of Defense, and yet your qualifications aren't any better. You guys aren't any more qualified to be the senator than I'm qualified to be the senator, except we're lucky enough to be here. But let me read you what the qualifications of the Secretary of Defense is, because I Googled it and went through a lot of different sites, and really it's hard to see. But in general, the U.S. Secretary of Defense position is filled by a civilian. That's it. If you have served in the U.S. Army Forces and have been in the service for, you have to be retired for at least 7 years, and Congress can weigh that. And then there's questions that the senator from Massachusetts brought up about serving on a board inside the military industry, and yet your own secretary that you all voted for, Secretary Austin, we had to vote on a waiver because he stepped off the board of Raytheon. But I guess that's okay because that's a Democrat Secretary of Defense. But we so quickly forget about that. And then Senator Kaine, or I guess I better use the senator from Virginia, starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No. But it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke. I mean, it is so ridiculous that you guys hold yourself as this higher standard and you forget you got a big plank in your eye. We've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes. And Jennifer, thank you for loving him through that mistake. Because the only reason why I'm here and not in prison is because my wife loved me too. I have changed, but I'm not perfect. But I found somebody that thought I was perfect. And for whatever reason, you love Pete, and I don't know why. But just like our Lord and Savior forgave me, my wife's had to forgive me more than once too, and I'm sure you've had to forgive him too. And so thank you. So before I go down this rabbit hole again, tell me something about your wife that you love.
She's the smartest, most capable, loving, humble, honest, person I've ever met. In addition to being incredibly beautiful.
Don't forget about your kids.
I'm supposed to talk about my kids?
No, well, she's also the mother.
Oh, an amazing mother.
Yes.
Of our
yes.
blended family of 7
Brother,
kids.
I'm pulling you
which love
along.
her.
I'm trying to help you here. You know, do you believe that you're going to be running the Secretary or the Department of Defense by yourself?
Senator, absolutely not. Just as President Trump is assembling his cabinet, I look forward and already am in the process of building one of the best possible teams you can imagine, with decades and decades of experience outside of the Pentagon, driving innovation and excellence, and also inside the building, knowing how to make it happen. Yes, sir.
So, in your organizations that you did have the privilege of running, did you have a board that you...
In both organizations, we had a board, yes.
Okay, and what did you do with that board? What kind of decisions did you make with them?
Those boards provided oversight and insight into decision-making.
They all have special, unique sets that maybe filled gaps that you're not the expertise in?
Yes, sir.
So do you believe you're capable of surrounding yourself with capable individuals that you're going to be able to run those same ideas by, and surround yourself with people that are smarter and better equipped in maybe areas that you don't necessarily carry those expertise with?
Senator, the only reason I've had success in life, to include my wonderful wife, is because of people more capable around me and having the self-confidence to empower them and say, hey, run with the ball, run with the football, take it down the field. We'll do this together. I don't care who gets the credit. And in this case, that's how the Pentagon will be run.
Let's end with this, Mr. Chairman, about the qualifications. You got a man who has literally put his butt on the line. He served 20 years in the service, multiple deployments, has heard the bullets crack over the top of his head, has been willing to go into combat, been willing to see friends die for this country. And he's willing to still put himself through this. His wife is willing to still stand beside him, knowing he wasn't perfect, knowing that all this was going to be brought up. And he's still willing to serve the country.
The confrontation we've just witnessed is a masterclass in rhetorical warfare, where the lines between personal conduct and professional qualification are deliberately and aggressively blurred. The key actor in this drama is the defending senator, who employs a powerful and high-risk strategy, the two-quoque fallacy, or the appeal to hypocrisy. Instead of defending the nominee on the specific merits being questioned, he launches a counteroffensive against the integrity of the questioners themselves. He begins by deconstructing the very idea of qualifications, pointing out that the constitutional requirements to be a senator are minimal, essentially just age, residency, and citizenship. This is a strategic move to level the playing field, suggesting that senators hold their positions not due to superior qualification, but because they convinced enough people to vote for them. He then turns his sights on the qualifications for Secretary of Defense, which he claims, after a Google search, simply require the individual to be a civilian with a 7-year cooling-off period if they have served in the military. This foundation allows him to pivot to his central argument, the gross hypocrisy of the senators sitting in judgment. He makes the explosive and unsubstantiated claim that he knows senators have shown up drunk to vote and others have cheated on their wives, yet no one called for their resignations. This is the core of his ad hominem attack. By painting the judges as sinners, he attempts to invalidate their judgment. The message is clear. You have a big plank in your eye. He frames the entire proceeding as a big show for political points, aimed at destroying a man who simply made a mistake. The most powerful moment of this strategy is when he makes it deeply personal. He confesses that the only reason he isn't in prison is because of his own wife's love and forgiveness, directly connecting his own redemption story to the nominees. This act of vulnerability is a calculated risk, designed to forge an unbreakable emotional bond with the nominee and portray the opposition as cold, unforgiving, and out of touch with human fallibility. In stark contrast is the nominee himself. While the senator breathes fire, the nominee is the picture of calm and control. He is the anchor in a sea of chaos. When asked if he believes he will run the Department of Defense by himself, his answer is swift and decisive. Absolutely not. He speaks of building one of the best possible teams, empowering capable people around him, and fostering an environment where he doesn't care who gets the credit. This is a textbook demonstration of confident, modern leadership. He acknowledges that in his previous organizations, he relied on boards for oversight and to fill gaps in his own expertise. This response is strategically brilliant. It counters the unstated accusation of personal recklessness with an image of professional collaboration and humility. He presents himself not as a flawed individual, but as a leader who understands his limitations and knows how to build a team that transcends them. His success, he states, is precisely because of having people more capable around me. Ultimately, the hearing exposes a fundamental conflict in how we define fitness for office. The defending senator argues for a definition based on lived experience, sacrifice, and redemption. He asks, what more qualification does a man need who has served 20 years, heard bullets crack over his head, seen friends die for his country, and is still willing to serve? It's a powerful, populist appeal to pathos. However, it is also a deliberate deflection. The senator's entire performance is designed to prevent a substantive discussion about the nominee's past actions and how they might relate to his future judgment. By turning the hearing into a trial of the senator's own morality, he successfully changes the subject. The tactic is effective because it taps into a widespread cynicism about the moral authority of politicians. It suggests that since no one is perfect, no one has the right to judge. While emotionally resonant, this approach sidesteps the core responsibility of the Senate, which is to provide advice and consent based on a thorough evaluation of a nominee's entire record, not just their willingness to serve or the passion of their defenders. The senator's speech was not an argument for his candidate's qualification. It was a powerful, emotional, and strategically brilliant demolition of the idea of scrutiny itself. What is your take on this dramatic confrontation? Do personal mistakes disqualify a person from public service, or is the senator's passionate defense of a flawed man a more authentic measure of character? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analyses of the moments that define our world.